Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Hashira Half Hour. Today we are going to be discussing the season finale of the Swordsmith Village arc of Demon Slayer, and I don't think that everyone in the room is well.
And by everyone, we mean Hana. So to give her a moment to recover, I do have a poem I'll be sharing for Father's Day with us. So, here it goes. I see Rengoku in the streets, and I'll be calling him Daddy. He knows he wants someone good, so he hits up a good baddie. He texts me real late. I'll still send him the Addy. Broke-ass bitch, need to get the mirror. She looks quite ratty. End scene. Thank you.
I don't even know what to say. Hi guys, it's Hana. I literally am tearing up right now. Like legitimately, I'm not okay. I am currently melting into a puddle of my own tears. That's what we're going with.
Very good. I did not know that we were coming up with poems today, but I'm gonna do one right off the rip here. Roses are red, violets are blue. I like donuts because donuts are Rengoku. That's what I've got.
I thought you were going to say, and fuck Hantengu.
That could also work.
I'm so glad we killed that bitch on Tengu.
Spoilers. Oh my gosh. Well, here we are. The end of another arc. The end of another long journey for our heroes. And we are just going to dive right in because there is a lot of ground to cover, literally and metaphorically here. So we opened this episode with Tanjiro giving chase to Hatengu again, and we see a really cool progression in his ability as he is, giving this chase. He is physically limited in what he's able to do in this moment because, as we recall from a previous episode, he has a seriously injured foot, among probably several other relatively serious injuries, but our boy's gonna keep going if there's one thing he's gonna do. And in this moment, we see the encouragement of the people around him. We've got Nezuko helping to give chase. We've got Genya as well helping to give chase. And somebody who's not even there calls out to Tanjiro through memory. And I think this is probably Bryan's turn to shine.
Hello, I'm back. And my boy makes a re-entrance. Oh my god. And he's like, Gramps always said it's not true total concentration unless it's every vein in your body, as he's eating like some kebab, which honestly live for. But then seeing the visual representation of this motion, last season we saw Tanjiro blend water into the Hinokami Kagura, and now he's using some other form of, maybe he goes in and he adds Thunderclap and Flash to his own kind of, repertoire, and he goes after Hantengu, and oh my god, the animation was so good for this. And of course, even the second time he does it, they add a little bit of like electricity to the Hinokami Kagura. The way they blended it, it was so good. Oh my god, I can't rave enough about it.
He even took the Thunderclap and Flash stance, with the one leg out and one behind. I was like, oh my god. I just have to say, because Bryan gets his moment to shine in this moment, I really liked the composition of that opening scene that they put in this episode before the title cards, which of course it's the season finale. We don't usually get the LP, which we did not. The way they had Tanjiro just kind of, even remembering what he's seen in the past with these demons and being like, why do they always run? Why are they so self-serving? That was all anime original. And I thought that was just so well done in a very emotionally intense way to open up the episode. So you could kind of tell that this episode was going to be different. Even anime onlys that didn't know what was going to go down in this episode were probably like, whoa, what's going on here? This is an interesting way of opening it up. So I have to shout them out for that composition. And then of course I've been waiting for that moment too. First of all, I love Zenitsu. I'm not as big of a Zenitsu stan as Bryan here, but I do love the Kamaboko squad as a whole. They're my favorite squad within the show. And so anytime we get a little moment here and there with them while Inosuke and Zenitsu are doing their own thing, it just makes me very excited. And then you add to it just to see Tanjiro just shoot forward like the Flash, enough to make Genya and Nezuko go, what? Like, their eyes are wide. They're completely confused as to how he was able to pull that off. Was just really impressive and goes along with the theme that when Tanjiro is pushed to the brink and you think he can't go any further, he always becomes stronger, and he gets in touch with that side of him that's even stronger than before.
Absolutely. And what a nice nod back to some characters we haven't seen in a while, too. It's really nice to get a little flash of Zenitsu. And I was just saying, I hope that the next thing we get to see Tanjiro do is dislocate all of his limbs and do some beast breathing down a little tunnel somewhere.
Maybe
not this episode.
Maybe he needs to move his organs.
Listen, my boy's organs have been moved enough these last several seasons. Every time he gets rocked.
He gets wrecked. Yeah. He does.
He gets himself rocked, but it's not going to stop him from giving chase. And again, this combination of his fire-based breathing style and the thunderclap and flash is so cool. And just another call out to a huge theme in this show overall is that, like, you can't take things on like this alone. You need the power of your friendship, and like everybody is rooting for you to win. And so it's really cool to see him embody and be inspired by the people that surround him, even if they're not there right now. So he charges after Hontengu using Thunderclap and Flash, and he is able to land a hit as well. This sword is firmly lodged in his neck, but Hontengu does not react well to this interaction. He shows us a similar ability to Nezuko, where he's able to quickly become a lot larger than what he was, this tiny little shrinky-dink thing, and he's pretty horrifying. He's giving, like, front yard, spirit Halloween, statue energy, like, looming over Tanjiro, and then he starts to crush his head. And for a minute, things are not looking so good.
Yeah, I mean, and this is, of course, is after Genya threw 2 trees at him, which we saw at the end of last episode, and we see in this one that he was just, like, chucking them at them, and it wasn't working, and Nezuko's kicking at him. But really impressive moment. Again, the animation of the Hinokami Kagura in this moment was one of my favorites that I've seen, honestly. Just the way they did this whole episode was spectacular, but definitely creepy to see Hontengu grow like that, as he says, like, stop tormenting the weak, implying that he thinks he's weak when, you know, he's clearly not. And it just goes along with the theme as to why Tanjiro is, like, so angry at this moment, and he's just going after them and getting in touch with these new powers, essentially, simply because he's just so angry. And also terrifying to see that hand grab him and have it be, like, again, like, crushing him. Like, you're hearing, like, bones cracking and his eyes are, like, rolling backwards. It's like, this is all things that don't happen in the manga, so when you see it in the anime, you're like, So definitely feels a little bit, like, not great, but Genya is trying his best. Tanjiro and Genya are really working together well at this point. They've grown a lot just in the space of this battle, and he's doing everything he can to rescue Tanjiro in this moment, which is awesome to see.
And it feels like Tanjiro really can work with anybody at this point. He's able to, you know, even overcome the cold shoulder of Genya. And so the hard part about this for me was just watching kind of that happen, like, because it was such, you know, a powerful moment for him to be able to catch up to Hontengu so quickly, and then also flip the tables so quickly as well to be stopped dead in his tracks. So this was very hard for me to watch, because I was like, God damn, like, they really are playing on our strings right now. Mm-hmm. And nonetheless, right, Nezuko is also still in route to try and help out. And so she throws some blood on Hontengu, gets that fire rolling, which helps a little bit for sure. But he's like, ah! And Genya's also like, ah! I'm like aerial damage, so I gotta get out of here too. And he's like, Tanjiro, do something about this. And so he, like, trying to rip Hontengu's hands off of him. It was a big scene, but, like, thankfully Genya was able to get in there a little bit and get some prying going, but whoo, rough times.
Yeah, definitely not looking so good at first, but we do see that between Genya, Tanjiro, and Nezuko all charging at this guy, they are able to get Tanjiro out of his grasp, taking both of his arms in the process. Hontengu's, not Tanjiro's. That would not be ideal. Granted, this does not stop Hontengu, And Tanjiro is still not doing so good. He is like collapsed against the side of a tree, I think, at this point. And Hantengu is like still kind of trudging forward, also not doing so hot at this point. And he is monologuing about like, the other like split forms of me are using up too much energy. I can't regenerate quickly enough. I need to devour some humans so that I can get back going and on my way. There are some swordsmiths nearby, and so he charges after them. But Tanjiro's not going to let him.
I mean, yeah, this is where the second part comes in, and he really goes after it with that second thunderclap and flash. But looking at it, right, like, he's trying so hard to get after it at the same time as, like, watching Nezuko on the ground, and he's watching that run away, so he's trying to get over there as quickly as possible. He ditches Nezuko behind because she's just laying there, so he's like, let me get after it. But he eventually gets over there and breaks through the head. But it's still not enough, because even beheading this demon does not work out, and then he realizes, oh crap, it has a different symbol on its tongue. That's not the right one. You chose the correct demon again, or incorrect demon. But, I mean, for Hantengu to call himself weak and then have, like, 8 different forms going on, like, that's not weak. I'm sorry, sir. Like, you have a magical hat that you flip out of every 5 minutes. That's just, like, OP. Let me tell you.
Yeah, we're shooting forward here. Things feel very hopeless. You know, even just going back to, they broke Tanjiro free from that grasp, finally. But then, literally, like, he's still hanging on to his sword to try and behead him, which is kind of stuck. And because of that, Hantengu, like, falls off a cliff. And then Tanjiro and Nezuko go down with him. And, like, Nezuko's unconscious now. Tanjiro's stuck in a tree that was, like, on the ledge, like you said, like, kind of leaning against a tree. And my boy, I knew this moment was going to be the first moment where I was gonna be like, holy frick, which it wasn't, because there were moments that happened before it that got me that I wasn't expecting. But Tanjiro says, like, you're not getting away. Like, you can run to the depths of hell and I will still behead you. And of course, he also just had his, like, vocal cords crushed from, like, having his face crushed. So it's like, literally, he's, like, growling it because he doesn't really have much of a voice. He's doing everything he can to get, like, those words out so that Hantengu can hear. And it just feels like this is the end. Like, he's gonna run away. The sun is starting to come up, which is not good for Nezuko. It might be good for Hantengu, like, bye. But, you know, but he's still running, and he did find the swordsmiths. And the problem is, his sword that he's been using this entire fight is now stuck in Hantengu as he's running away. So, we suddenly hear another voice that's coming along, and it's Muichiro. And he has somehow pried that sword out of Hagnezuka's death grip. Somehow, I want to see that happen. Like, can we get, like, an OVA on how Muichiro got that sword out of his grip?
A little behind the scenes.
And he's thrown the sword at him to, you know, go and behead him. And that's when the second mix of, you know, Kamikagura and Thunderclap and Flash happen. And I just have to say, in this one, we see a mix of the fire and the lightning in the animation. We didn't really see it the first time he used it. So that rocked my world, man. I was like, this show, I'm so happy I'm a fan of Demon Slayer.
It's so nice to get to see all of these characters begin to really, like, work in tandem. And yes, how impressive that Muichiro was the one that was able to pry it from the grasp of Haganezuka, who is there, by the way, and is not thrilled about this prospect.
No.
He's like, I only honed it to, like, its first form or something. It's like, how many forms are there? I think that is left unanswered. But Muichiro is able to throw it to Tanjiro, and this is really cool because this is the sword from 1,000 years ago again. And it's looking a lot better than it did the last time that we saw it. Obviously, Haganezuka was putting some tireless work into it, as we, you know, saw previously. You know, but beyond tossing this sword, Muichiro's kind of tapped, and we see him collapse. That's, like, the end of what he's able to pitch in and do. But not before, while he's tossing it, he's, like, take the sword. Tanjiro, you need to be the one that goes and does this because everybody's hopes are with you and are with this sword. And then we see the silhouettes of like all the Hashira past and present. And, amongst others possibly. I'm not sure every single silhouette in the shot. It pans for quite a bit, but it's like humanity. Like humanity is rooting for you, and that's upper 4, and you need to go take it out, and you're the only one that can do it, which is such a cool moment, seeing even more Hashira begin to rely on Tanjiro.
This is what I love about the show right here. Muichiro has been through quite a lot this arc, and just even 5 episodes ago, he was like, everyone here is weak. I'm the only one who can, take down an Upper Moon. And then he clapped Upper Moon 5 like nobody's business, didn't even break a sweat. But he is able in this moment to recognize that he can't do it, to recognize that Genya can't do it, that, Nezuko, obviously can't because she's a demon, so she can't inflict a killing blow to another demon. And the way they showed, and it was that shot from the Oki, from the opening credits, where we start with this mysterious swordsman that we keep seeing in Tanjiro's dreams, and we just pan out more and more. We see all the Hashira. We even see Urokodaki. We see Gramps.
Chihiro!
We see everyone together, and Muichiro is like, we're all behind you. Like, you, Tanjiro, you do it. And he's just doing everything he can to help Tanjiro in the only way that he can, and that's to get him a new sword, because the sword that he had is stuck now. And not to be cheesy and say the show is about the power of love and friendship, the show really isn't just about the chosen one being the one to take down people, right? Because Tanjiro is the chosen one of kinds. He's one of the chosen ones. The show is about teamwork. The show is about building a team to go against one foe, and we're seeing it build more and more.
And kind of going from that, right, like even Muichiro was one of the chosen ones, but like he had help from Kotetsu to like get through that fight as well, and gave him like that extra, like quite literal breath of fresh air that he needed to break out the bubble and finish off Gyoko. So that was pretty cool. And maybe Tanjiro in this instance is humanity's strongest soldier for the Demon Slayer verse. IYK. But literally, I mean, it's really cool to see like how in this moment he means everything to what they've fought for so far. And so all of the hopes rest on him. Maybe it is cheesy, but I'll say it. It's the power of friendship, man. Like, gotta have friends to help you out. And so going forward, seeing him still chug on as he is really reaching the full limits of what he thought he could do even further back. So he's going for it. Hopefully we can get there.
Are you saying that Tanjiro is a fidget spinner?
Maybe.
He's a fidget spinner.
I have to say, obviously Tanjiro beheads Hantengu in this moment, and we find out very quickly that that wasn't enough because he's still running. But this Hinokami Kagura moment had me, again, my breath is taken away. There's something about fire in this show. I think that's their favorite element to anime, and it is just spectacular. But also, like, they're changing the way Tanjiro looks. I don't know if you noticed this, but normally in his eyes, the bottoms of them are a little bit more like bright red than the rest. But when he gets into these like God mode moments, that brightness actually rings around his entire eye to like maybe signify that he's seeing something different, that he's like getting in touch with even more power. I just think that's a really cool addition that they add. It happened, I think, when he had the blood tears in Entertainment District. So really cool little additional detail there with his eyes just being more concentrated, maybe?
More focused and vengeful, which for him is unusual. It's not his natural state.
Yeah.
It's not something that generally I would say is his strong suit. It's just not really how he is, but there is like a limit, and all of these upper moons have well surpassed that limit because like it's their fault, right? Like and the closer that you get to Muzan, the closer you are to a complete lack of humanity and a lack of regard for humanity, and that is something that is unforgivable to Tanjiro. So it's really cool to see his inner rage really come out, because it's not very often that we get to see it. So he has the new sword, and he needs to charge forward again with this new sword to try to help these poor swordsmiths that are running away. What were they doing there?
They were hiding. They were like in these rocks. I think they had been out and about. Maybe they're just like they were like hiding.
God, this seems like a good spot. Out in the middle of nowhere,
in a wide open field,
in the middle of the night.
What are they doing?
What are they doing? Like, they're getting in the way. It's okay. It's all right. Tanjiro's gonna protect them, right? So this is, and he is still not doing so good. He's doing probably worse than he was the last time that we tried to see him moving, but we get to see again the beautiful thunderclap and flash. We get to see him hold the hilt of the sword, and he needs to charge forward once again. And he's leaving everybody else behind at this point, because Muishiro's knocked out and up on the top of a cliff. Nezuko's knocked out over in, like, a little spot in the meadow. Genya's, like, hanging on for dear life to the cliff. So he is charging, he's taking this on alone, and things just really start to escalate a bit.
Escalate?
Escalators.
That's a choice of word there. Escalate is one way to put it. I don't know what to say. So, Tanjiro has beheaded this demon. He thinks he's won. He believes that it's done, that he did it. He runs to Nezuko. The sun is starting to come up. And he's like, Nezuko, run. But again, his voice is not there. He's desperately, he's starting to get very desperate. And everyone's feeling a little desperate because the sun is starting to come up. And while this is probably good news for the fight with Hantengu, this is not good news for Nezuko because they are in a wide open space. And so he runs to her, telling her to run as much as he can. But she doesn't run. Instead, she is like hugging him, and he's confused. She's pointing to Hantengu, and he has not died. He's not disintegrating. He's still running for the villagers, and Nezuko is essentially trying to tell him, you need to run after him. You need to run after him. But what does Tanjiro do?
He just gets caught, and honestly, what a fork in the road to be posed, right? Could you imagine at that point, you're like, the entire time I've been here, I've been trying to do this thing, and now it feels like I'm either going to sacrifice the lives of people I'm meant to save, or I'm going to let go of everything I've worked so hard for. And he's just trying to sit there. You see kind of that Nezuko starts to burn a little bit, and it goes not super well. She's obviously wincing in pain, and he's trying to figure out what's going on, what's the decision you should make. And honestly, there's no way to tell what the right decision would have or should have been. Now, you see them continually burning, and he's just I can't do anything about this. And Nezuko makes the decision for him, and she says yeet, because she just yeets Tanjiro all the way.
She uses that powerful kick on her own brother, and even as he's flying through the air, he's still paralyzed in this choice, which is he's like I can't make up my mind. I don't know what to do. She's making the decision for him, but that doesn't necessarily make it easier, because as he's flying away, he's just watching her burn. And then we get tormented by Ufotable with a slideshow, an 8th grade style slideshow of all these adorable scenes, past and present, with Nezuko. I'm like, all that's missing was Green Day's Good Riddance, Time of Your Life. That's
another turning point, a demon in the road. Watch Nezuko burn and we'll all cry.
That did happen. This is because again, this is the point of the whole show, so where do we go from here? The whole point of Tanjiro becoming a demon slayer in the first place is to try to turn Nezuko back into a human. What happens next if Nezuko does not survive this fight?
And that's why this whole sequence of events up until this slideshow happens is so telling of Tanjiro's character, I think. First he runs to her, he notices that the demon is running away. He starts to chase it, but then Nezuko starts to burn, and it's bad. Like, there's fire, like, and he looks back at her with this, like, absolute look of terror, just completely like, what do I do? And this scene is so important for Tanjiro's character, because we've seen him, like, he's always trying to do what's right, and he usually does what's right, like, he is a good boy, like, he is a pure soul, and almost to a fault sometimes, like, my husband and I just watched Mugen Train, after he gets stabbed by this conductor, and he's flying through the air because the train is, flipping, he's like, I can't die. It was like, okay, realistic, because if I die, the conductor becomes a murderer. It's like, okay, Tanjiro, like, he's so selfless to a point where every once in a while it gets a little bit like, okay, Tanjiro. In this moment, and this is heartbreaking, he's presented with two things. You either protect your sister, that is your life. That is why he's able to keep living, essentially, is that he has this goal to turn her back into a human. Or you go and fulfill your duty as a demon slayer, even though you became a demon slayer for your sister. Mm-hmm. It's like the job that he took to fulfill his goal is now being direct contrast with his goal. And how realistic is it that a 15-year-old kid in this situation wouldn't be able to decide? Right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you're choosing between your family and what's become, like, your custom family and, like, your chosen family. It
reminds me of that, I don't know if all of us got this in school, where, like, someone presents you with the train analogy, where one way on the train tracks is your brother, but it's only your brother, and the other way is, like, 10 people, and you have to decide which way you go. You either kill your brother or you kill the 10 people. Like, which do you decide? It kind of reminds me, I don't know if you guys got those, like, you have to choose type things. Like, I don't know if that was
There's
a school
actually a board
or,
game like that, but that's another day.
But yeah, it just shows his character, because he did not make the decision.
Yeah.
Nezuko was the one who kicked him away.
If Nezuko hadn't kicked him away, what do you guys think he would have done?
Protect Nezuko.
I think so too.
Oh yeah, he would have literally ran away with Nezuko. Hantengu would have eaten people, and Tanjiro might have quit the Demon Slayer Corps.
Hantengu might have figured a way to get away from the sun, because if he ate the humans, he might have gotten his speed back to somehow evade burning, kind of like Akaza did. Yeah, like, he would have shrunk down into a small body, probably, and gone away, too. So, like, Tanjiro's decision would have directly, like, he probably would have gone fired. Like, they would have been like, you're 15 years old and you can't make right decisions, you're done in the Demon Slayer Corps.
Get fired from the Demon Slayer Corps, oh no. Oh. But I mean, from there, once he's actually kicked away, he's like, well, shit, I'm here, so I might as well get after it.
Tears in his eyes, welling up, because he knows what this means. Like, after we've gone through that insufferable slideshow.
Awful.
It was so long, too. Like, and for what? To just continue to prolong our tears?
Yes. They're like, we're going to make you cry now. Enjoy a montage of all of their happy moments together. While
happy moments. Literally every moment was them on the brink of death together. Those weren't happy. It was Rui, V, the two of them.
Okay, I will say I definitely was watching that I was sobbing, like hiccuping, sobbing. So I might have missed some of the, like, it was a mixture of happy moments and, like, when they worked together to defeat a demon, which is still a happy moment. It's just more of a, like, intense happy moment.
Ufotable, you're on my list for that one. But he's flying away, tears in his eyes, because he knows what this decision that's been made for him means, and, like, that Nezuko's going to die. No demon has ever been able to withstand the sun, and we see her, like, already getting pretty crispy down there, and, like, fading away, and, as... I don't know that he turns his attention away necessarily, but he literally is, like, spinning away from her kick, and so his focus then becomes Hantengu, and again we see this rage come out because it's his fault, right? If he didn't have to decide between these two, then Nezuko would be safe, and because of him, Nezuko is going to die. And there's no way Tanjiro can accept that. So the very minimum he's going to do is make this death count, because he has to now, and he's going to make it miserable for Hantengu. And he unleashes, again, an insane Hinokami Kagura as he takes off after him. And I think, like, the most rage we've ever seen in Tanjiro comes out in this moment.
I think this one was called Flashdance, right?
I think that's an 80s movie.
Flashdance is not one of the forms I...
No, I swear this episode had Hinokami Kagura Flashdance, nonetheless. But it was literally coming up for him, and this is when he's like, I need to smell him. I need to smell. Make the smell clearer. Know the shape. Know the color of the smell. And I was like, damn, Tanjiro, like, can I get that scent? I would like to be directionally gifted. And so he literally is just raging on to get to him. It's really kind of nice to see Tanjiro go full feral mode, because now at this point, like, he's like, there's no holding back. The literal reason I've been here the entire time is gone. So you have pissed me off to the umpteenth power. So you are going to feel my wrath.
Well, in that whole scene that transpires, first, I have to say it, Hanai-san's voice acting for this entire moment was top tier. There were so many emotions, like, and differently portrayed throughout, like, these, like, 10 minutes of what transpires, and every single time, Hanai-san just knocked it out of the park, as expected. But this moment, when he lands and he says, like, smell him out, he can't have gone that far. I've been wondering how he was going to do that, and as I kind of expected, he was extremely, like, dead calm, with his voice. There's, like, this dead look in his eyes, like, that... He just essentially watched Nezuko die, right? Like, she closes her eyes. It's almost like she kind of waves and makes a fist. And it looks like that was essentially her death, right? And Tanjiro just witnessed this. What does he do in that moment, right? And it's a rage that overtakes him so beyond what we've ever seen that he's speaking, like, eerily quiet to himself. It's like he's lost his will to live, almost. But then he gets there, and that anger boils over, and we get another, like, end of entertainment district feeling of the shouting, the screaming, the eyes going white while he does this. But we also see him essentially see inside the big demon. It's like he's using his smell to be able to see inside a person. Yeah,
being able to find the little Hantengu that was in the heart was really cool. And he also made mincemeat to find it, right? Like, he, like, chopped through that shell, like, literally went straight in half, and he was like, there you are, you little shit. And as soon as he found him, he was like, you're mine. Mm-hmm. And it was so cool to see, because watching that happen was just really finally a culmination of Tanjiro. And it's nice to see that, like, while Tanjiro, like, was affected by the rest of the Kamaboko squad, it's nice to see the reverse as well, because, like, kind of channeling back to Zenitsu affected him in this moment. And so it's finally starting to show that, like, these demon slayers and Tanjiro himself isn't the only one who can create change in others, but his heart is open enough to accept change from others.
Yeah, this is one of the, I think, the most brutal killings that Tanjiro has carried out for a number of reasons, and absolutely agree that we need to shout out, like, the voice actors. Something interesting happens here as we do see Hantengu finally get, like, sliced for real. We do get a backstory. It's a very, very brief backstory, and I think that's something that's unique about the two upper moons that have been in this arc, as, like, the primary villains. So Gyoko didn't get one at all. It's like, it doesn't matter. He's just, like, a sick freak. And he's taken care of. We don't need to worry about him anymore in this episode. But Hantengu does get a very brief flashback, and we see that it's interesting that he looks, like, almost exactly the same in the flashback, just, like, minus the horns. Yeah. He's just, like, some ugly, like, disfigured guy that faked a lot of ailments for pity, but still carried out, like, a high level and rate of crime. He was kind of pathetic. I don't know. What do you guys think?
It was really sad. Because, like, he's like, oh, I'm blind. And he's like, no, you're not.
Yeah.
And it was just like, my hands did it. And like, I wanted to know, like, was he like an outcast of society? I'm sure from what we know with, I'm sure he was very similar to Gyotaro in the sense that he was an outcast of society. Everyone hated him. They were like, boo, ugly guy, you suck. But like, also at the same time, like, bruh, you can't be killing people and stealing like that. Like, I get it. It was probably hard living your life, but also don't make other people's lives harder because of it.
He just had like a very like victim mindset when he is anything but the victim in human and demon life.
Well, and that's what kind of started the whole like Tanjiro just being very angry. Like for the last few episodes, he's been pretty different, you know? Like there's just like a different aura about him because it's clear that he's just like really angry. And that I think that happened when, you know, Zohakutin called him the evil villain, right? And that was back in episode 7. So we've gotten some time with this, and I think Hantenga's backstory is really interesting. I think, you know, it's clearly implied that he was a liar, but I also wonder if not everything he said was a lie, but people looked at him different because of his disfigurement. I think that, you know, there's a lot of stories out there where, you know, I think about like the Hunchback of Notre Dame, where they take this man who's a hunchback and they vilify him, even though he's done nothing wrong. And I think it's clear that Hantengu still did some like things wrong. I think that he was lying about the blindness, but they don't actually confirm that he wasn't blind. Like there might have been the possibility that he genuinely wasn't lying, right? It's kind of up to us to decide in this moment if that's really what's going on. And I think he wasn't. I think the show kind of makes it obvious when someone's blind. I think they usually kind of animate their eyes to just be white, but you have to wonder, because we've seen this many times before, that demons that become demons, a lot of them become demons because of the way they were treated by humans. And they, like, he's on death row when Muzan meets him.
Yeah.
And I mean, they said you are deformed and you are ugly. So, and then Muzan meeting there was really, again, like, it's almost like a theme, right? Like all of these demons who are like inches away from death, they're like, let me tempt you with immortality. Let me help you out here. And then all of a sudden they're like, I'm such a bad guy. It's like very interesting that every time we see a demon get like changed, it's like their last shred of hope to try and have a better life. But really it only just makes things worse and extends their pain, which is really sad to see, honestly, because it happened with Rui. Rui was sick and he was like, you're a kid, and like, let me help you. He had that fake family, which only caused him more pain.
Yeah.
Manipulation at its finest.
Absolutely. Although, again, like for most of the demons where we've seen a backstory, I think that I've been able to feel some kind of sense of pity or like understanding because it's about choices. These two are much less. Yeah. There's a lot less gray area with the demons that have been in this season. So short moment. And, you know, as we come back to the present moment, he's done. We get to see that he is done. He's fully cooked.
Should I repeat what I said while we were watching it? Bye, bitch.
Literally, Hantengu is a fugly slut.
No one. Oh my god, the burn book. Oh no! Not the burn book!
It literally burned because as soon as like that head went off, the sun finished the job quickly. It was like, head is off, bye!
And so, you know, mission accomplished, essentially. This is like the end of the mission of the Swordsmith Village arc, but there is no time to celebrate at all because the minute that like his sword cuts through, Tanjiro is collapsed on the ground, sobbing because Nezuko just died. This is like an enormous loss for not only him, but like the story. How are things going to progress from here? And anyone who's ever suffered a loss that's like anything along those lines know that this is like one of the most vulnerable times that you could ever go through. And not only is like he now mentally broken, he's physically broken too. He's really put his body through the ringer, and so he just completely collapses in more ways than one. And the swordsmiths that he just saved are trying to help him. There's not much you can do or say in a moment like this, but there's a surprise.
Surprise. Surprise indeed. They're like, Tanjiro! And he's like, and he like won't turn around to see that she's still alive. Thankfully. If you were an anime only, we all know you were probably not okay in that moment. But it's okay, because Nezuko conquered the sun! Aren't we excited? And nonetheless, she starts to try and use her words. Oh, ohio! Which was so cute. Finally, we get to hear Nezuko's voice actor just a little bit, which was so nice to see. But I'll let Hannah have a moment, because I know that she was waiting for this.
This is such a turning point in the show. You know, we go from, we just beheaded the demon, and Tanjiro, again, something we don't really get to grasp in the manga is the way he just collapsed onto his hands and knees, which you can't really blame him, you know? All of that pent-up anger he just let out, and now all that's left is emptiness. All that's left is grief, because he has not dealt with the grief of losing his family. Like, that's deep down inside still. That's something that he's pushed down for Nezuko's sake, essentially. Like, he's this whole time just being strong for her, and now she's gone. He has built these friendships, but essentially has nothing left in what he thinks in this moment. And so this is a turning point in the show, because you're sitting there like, okay, what do we do from here? Where does the story go? Because our goal has been to turn her into a human. And he even says, and this is added from the manga, additional dialogue here that was not in the manga, where he says, he's saying her name, and he says, like, everything that I've done has been to turn her into a human. Like, I'm here, I've gotten to this point because of that goal, because of her. And then that's when we hear, Kamado Dono, like, hello, listen to us, because they can see her at this point, and they're trying to inform him. And Ufotable, they have this thing of zooming in on Tanjiro's eye and having the reflection of what he's looking at. And we saw it in Mugen Train. We saw it with Set Your Heart Ablaze, where the reflection in his eye is not good. It's Rengoku in his dying moments, right? But this time, we see this reflection for a very important moment in his life, but it is Nezuko walking in the sun. And the emotions you go from being like heartbroken for Tanjiro, like just absolutely, like, my heart breaks for my son, of course, and your tears just change to tears of joy because Nezuko is alive. But what a turning point in the show, because we have not seen a demon able to do this yet.
And not only has she conquered the sun in a way where she's able to get up and live afterwards and speak for the first time since before she was turned into a demon. Mm-hmm. She's like unscathed. She has like some blood left on her kimono, but she's like she's fine. She looks better than she did before the fight.
Yeah.
There's something strange going on here. But in the moment, nobody really cares what it is that's going on. It's just like, and we were joking that this should have been the actual name of the episode. Yokata! Thank goodness.
Yokata. I learned that in school, actually, so it actually is the past tense form of good, but they use it as thank goodness.
Thank goodness.
That could have been the Taisho secret. Oops. Oh.
Thank goodness, indeed. This was like an extremely emotional episode overall. Mm-hmm. You know, just seeing this interaction between Tanjiro and Nezuko, but him going through all those feelings of grief right before, again, like, it is not a pleasant time. And, you know, my sympathies to anyone who has felt something like that. And then he gets like that impossible moment that does not come for so many people. Yeah. That's like, you know, like part of grief is almost like, if I could just see them like one more time, if I could just hold them one more time. And he's laying there in the ground like there's not even any bones for me to bury. Everything has been dissolved by the sun. And then it's like, there she is. And he's getting that moment that so many people do not get. And I do not think that is lost on him.
I think that, you know, like Emily said, there's not many of us get to experience this when we believe we've lost a loved one. We've lost a loved one, you know, and there's no going back from that. And, you know, even just my own personal experiences with, I've lost loved ones as a surprise, you know, it's not something that you were expecting. And the grief that I felt, like, I can't even imagine. Like, obviously Tanjiro's a fictional character. This is not actually happening. But, like, someone who's gone through what he's gone through and then loses what he has left, like, that, there's no coming back from that, you know? To the point of when he sees her, the way he approaches her is just, like, it's making me emotional just thinking about it, because he's at a loss. Like, he doesn't know what to say. He can't really say much still because his vocal cords, but, like, the swordsmiths have to kind of help him walk over, which is partially because he's bruised and battered from the fight, you know, but also because it's like there's just disbelief in his eyes, like what? And he's just, like, saying her name. He's just like, Nezuko, like, and I think the part that surprisingly brought the most emotions out of me, which I was already, like, sobbing, as you both experienced firsthand, was him just hugging her, you know? And it's not like the normal, just like, oh, hi, Nezuko. It's like literally he just practically collapsed into her arms after, like, they were holding on to him. He can't even, like, move correctly. And he just starts to sob. And what else are you going to do in that moment? Right?
Not gonna lie, I kind of spaced out in the sense of, like, imagining myself in the moments of the character of, like, lost everything. Like, wow. Just, like, thinking about, like, what if I lost, like, my husband or things like that. Like, it's just terrifying to think. And then to think, like, he's trying to figure out, like, what do I do to move forward from here? I would be an absolute wreck if anything like that happened to me. And so I applaud Tanjiro to the utmost degree, because he at least has some sense of shoulder, or some sense of, like, direction from here. Like, yes, he doesn't have anything to bury, but, like, he knows that his life will go on and that he'll still do something with it, I feel, from his demeanor at this point. And, you know, for a 15-year-old to at least have that much constitution of their own mind and to be that resolute in their own decision-making is, I would say, very to give applause to. I don't know which form of the word I was supposed to use there, but we're continuing on anyways. I mean, seeing kind of what he does from there and finally accepting Nezuko into his arms in Yokata, right? So good to see. So I'm really glad that Tanjiro gets that moment. And, you know, we even flash back a little bit after we finally settle things down with Nezuko and such. And we flash back to Mitsuri getting caught in the jaws of the dragon.
Yeah, I know we need to move on from Tanjiro and Nezuko, and I've been doing a lot of talking. I just have to say, like, the way that they decided to animate that whole thing from the moment the episode started, you know, I said that, like, the way it started felt very different till the moment where we move in, you know, and we see what we got to know what's going on with Mitsuri at this point. We've been spending a lot of time on Tanjiro and Nezuko. I just have to say, like, UFO Table and everyone involved, the writers, the storyboard artists, the voice actors, the new song called Kamado Nezuko no Uta. She has her own song now as well. I have to say, when I came into this episode, when I got here to watch it, I was nervous because I felt like I was maybe setting my expectations too high on what they were going to do with this moment. And it still blew my expectations out of the water with the way that they just, like, added to it and made all of the emotions come. This only was like 5 pages in the manga, this whole entire sequence. And this was probably more than half of this episode. So UFO Table, storyboard artists, animators, voice actors, musicians, everyone involved. Arigatou gozaimasu. Thank you for giving us this scene that had us in a roller coaster of emotions, even as manga readers, knowing what was going to happen. We came into this knowing that this was going to happen, and still, I think all of us were... I know I was sobbing because it's me, but I think you two definitely felt some emotions as well, so thank you.
Nah, it was mid. I'm just kidding.
Demon Slayer, more like D-Mid Slayer.
LOL. No, that was absolutely fantastic. Like, literally, there was so much there to enjoy as a fan of the show. Like, they they said like, oh, you want to eat? Let me give you the whole buffet, sweetie. Like, they really let us have it, and in multiple ways. Like, they let us have like good moments, but they also let us have it and like, oh my god, how dare you make me feel that?
Yeah, 100%. And we still have more to cover, but I would already argue that this is one of the best episodes of Demon Slayer that has come out.
I'm gonna say it. It's my favorite.
You heard it here live, folks.
Hannah made that decision right here, right now.
It's my favorite episode of Demon Slayer so far.
And there's still more to come. So back to Mitsuri now for a moment. For a very brief moment, she's so funny. We needed a moment of like comic relief.
Yeah.
And these are going to become fewer and further between. Yep. This already was a very heavy episode, but this is like she's fighting, you know, one of the what's his name? Zohakuten. And he still has the snakes going. Like, he's still like kicking over and so is she. And one of them is like closing in on her. She's like, oh my gosh, I can't do it. This is the end. So long, everybody.
So I'm gonna die. And it's...
And then this is like as the main body of Hatengo is dissolving. So Zohakuten is now dissolving too. And she's like, I'm saved.
Me.
I love her so much.
She's so funny and cute. And, you know, this, of course, gives her a chance to kind of, like, get over to where everyone else is. And, like, the group is starting to get together now. Tanjiro and Nezuko are obviously, like, just having their moment. And the little swordsmiths are crying in the background, too, which is, like, so sweet. But I think that's what got me. I was like, I'm good. I'm not good.
Aww.
It was so sweet. Genya's coming for them.
Smiling.
He smiles.
Happy for them.
Our angry boy finally smiled. Muichiro, like, everybody's coming down. Mitsuri makes her way down, and she grabs not everybody. She grabs our two boys, Muichiro and Genya, in an embrace. Genya's very, very embarrassed.
Red!
By our pretty girl grabbing him, and Muichiro's indifferent. He's like, I'm 12.
I am a child.
And she's just, and you know, and again, the theme of this episode is Yokata, because everybody keeps saying it, but it takes her a minute to register, like, Nezuko, here, son.
What?
And again, like, some awesome comic relief, but we know that they have such a sweet sisterly relationship from the beginning of this. And so then it becomes the embrace of Mitsuri and Tanjiro and Nezuko, which is just so sweet.
It was so good to see Mitsuri come back and be like, oh my god. And also the way that she, like, comprehended everything and watching everything process in her brain. She was like, wah! It was so good. It was so cute just to see her be like, she can, like, stand in the sun now and maybe even talk too. And Tanjiro was like, I don't know how this happened. She just kind of did it, but I'm glad that she's still alive. So, amen, right?
And this is a fun little moment, too. I love the comedic relief after such an emotional episode so far. And I love how just excited she is. Like, the way she runs over, Genya's face turning red, everyone being happy. And then Haganazuka. I think if I had to say my favorite comical moment is also adorable, is when he's, like, so angry at Tanjiro. Which, like, he should be angry at Muichiro for being the one that, like, pried the sword out of his hands and throwing it to Tanjiro. And Tanjiro goes, Nezuko, run! Because she's carrying him again because he can't move. Like, he's just exhausted. And she goes, run! So cute! Oh, that made my heart so happy. It was so cute.
It was so funny. And the swordsmiths are like, it's okay. It's not broken. It's right here. But he has, like, a very directed, focused rage. Focused lens.
He has to be angry at Tanjiro
he
for
does.
Something.
I think it's just his perpetual state of being.
Yeah.
He's just angry.
Yeah.
He's just an angry boy. So this is, like, a really nice, sweet reunion that we get to see. We don't get to linger on it for very long, though, because other people are aware of this development. Mm-hmm. And so we pan to a totally different environment, a bedroom with a young boy facing a bunch of disheveled bookshelves. And what we can assume is his mother and, like, the maid coming into his room. And he is trembling they're asking him what's going on. Why did you make such a mess of your room? Were you looking for something? Doing some research? We can help you find it, but let's have some tea first. And he quickly, next time, no heads them, unalive. So we pick up pretty quickly that this is actually Muzan in yet another form.
Push not in my head.
He's gone another level because he's able to see that Nezuko has conquered the sun. So everything that he's done in the past, he's like, well, I've got my goal now. And he doesn't need to be incognito anymore. And of course it's Muzan, so bye to random characters. What a gruesome way to die when you're just trying to be like your adopted parents to a kid. But I have to say, I do not need to be simping for Muzan in the way that I am at this point, because the way he transformed, and there was an angle at one point where like he was shirtless, but you can only see a little bit, and his face took my breath away. I'm not okay with that. I do not need to be simping for Muzan.
He took their breath away too.
Oh no! Bro, the worst part about that sequence was when she was like, ma'am, what happened to your head? And I was like, what do you mean? It's not on her body.
I mean, but how do you even... Like,
how do you respond to that? Like, what do you do in that situation?
Yeah, she got hereditary. It was not good. Anyway, so as Hannah said, Muzan now is keenly aware. And what's interesting about this reaction to me is that he is so hyper fixated on Nezuko and like he has his answer now. He doesn't even care about the two upper moons that are dead. Yeah. Whereas like he was pissed when it was Daki and Gyutaro.
He said good job to them.
He was like not happy. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's like his attention is completely diverted, and we finally get a little bit of Muzan backstory here. Mm-hmm. And what's interesting here too is that his story is not super dissimilar from a lot of the other demon stories that we've seen so far. It just happens to be the first. Mm-hmm. It happens to be the first. We see that he was like a noble or like a well-off person of interest, like in
someone
his time,
standard,
a long time ago, centuries ago. At this point,
I think he said 1,000 years.
The fashion was really cool to see too. Yeah. It kind of. I was gonna make fun of his hat, and then I was like, maybe I'm not gonna do that, and I'm glad I didn't because everyone was wearing the hat. I was gonna call him sorcerer.
We're getting a Japanese history lesson in this episode.
We are definitely going to, but regardless, he's ill. As a human, he has like a weak constitution, but as somebody with wealth, he has access to a doctor. Yeah. And we see this doctor like trying to make him some kind of like herbal remedy or like a medicine that's going to help cure his ailments, which are kind of left vague as well. Mm-hmm. We don't know exactly what's afflicting him, but it's enough to leave him bedridden and like weak. And this doctor is not working fast enough for him. So some things never change.
Yeah, honestly, seeing everything that Muzan went through, like, it's supposed to compel you. It's supposed to be like, oh man, let me feel bad for you. I did not feel bad for him at all. Like, the doctor was trying, and he's like, this inept doctor. And I was like, I mean, he's making medicine for you every day. And, you know, literally, you're still alive because he's been working so hard. And he's like, I don't think you're going fast enough. Let me kill you. And then he's like, a couple days later, I realized that the only thing that was actually helping me was the doctor's medicine. And I started to feel better. And I killed the man who was helping me.
Classic male rage.
I actually think this backstory is supposed to make it so that we're clearly not feeling bad for him. Because I think that they're very clearly setting things up where Muzan is the demon. He is truly the one who just, like, yes, he was sick, too bad, but he was a bad person. Because, like, he was sick, but the reasons he wanted the medicine was not just so that he could live a normal life. He was like, I want to be in control. I want to, like, I think he literally said, like, I want to destroy the world. Like, I think those words came out of his mouth, and I'm thinking of a reference to another show that I can't say because I know someone's going to be watching this and I can't spoil a certain show. If you know, you know. But yeah, we're not supposed to feel bad for him. This is supposed to show that he's been a demon since the start, and that he is the one that we need to kill, because as long as he is alive, these other demons that seem to be evil, that maybe aren't that evil, are going to continue to be manipulated by him.
Yeah. Yeah. And he goes on to state, like, the only reason I even made other demons in the first place was because I was looking for this answer that Nezuko has now provided. So, like, we see him in the past. He knows that he's unable to conquer the sun. He's like, I just knew that I wouldn't be able to survive, and, like, how shameful for me to not be able to go, like, wreak havoc on the entire world in broad daylight. And so he's been looking for the blue spider lily that was part of this medicine ever since. And he's like, the only person who really knew was this doctor. So, like, is it truly a flower that can be harvested? Is it something else entirely? He's like, I think if I had continued that regiment of medicine, I probably would have been able to conquer the sun. But, you know, I have consequences for my actions, and now I have to start from the ground up. I've searched all of Japan. I have not found an answer. So I've begun procreating additional demons to eventually find one that will work, and here we have it. Here we have the one that will work, and I am going to consume her. So that's not good.
Not a good time. I mean, yeah, now this really sets the stage for what comes next. Of course, right? Every anime, as the season ends, it clearly points to, you know, the next big plot point. Now, do we know where it's going entirely? Not really. But we know that Muzan is coming after Nezuko, and shit's about to go down. Let's get real here. Like, there is gonna be some big brawling because Nezuko is now a point of interest of Muzan specifically, and not only Tanjiro, because he is the representation of what we believe to be, you know, that swordsman that he kept seeing in the dream, and he wants to kill him just out of spite. But now his sister is something he needs to obtain in order to achieve his ultimate goal of being the person who can destroy humanity.
Yeah, this is definitely I think it's clear it's the beginning of the end, because Muzan now has a goal. He's not searching for the blue spider lily anymore. He knows that if he kills Nezuko and absorbs her, that he will finally be immortal. But also we see Tamayo and Yushiro, and Tamayo is talking or writing a letter to Tanjiro and explaining that, first of all, the medicine is already almost done, because the guy that was turned into a demon in Asakusa, I think that's how they pronounce it, has been turned back into a human. So, two clear signs that what's next? I think we're getting into our possible final few arcs here.
Yeah. It is very bittersweet, but Demon Slayer wears it well. So, more to come on Muzan. There's definitely a big fight brewing. But nice to see Lady Tamayo and Yuichiro again. And, you know, and she mentions in this letter, like, I think Nezuko's gonna be able to conquer the sun soon based on the blood work that you've sent me. Yeah. And obviously a little bit too much, a little bit too late. Tamayo.
She sends a letter after Nezuko conquered the sun, and Tanjiro went through all that.
And she sends the cat again, which I think is hilarious, because when this cat shows up, the last time it saw Tanjiro, we got like the little monologue at the beginning. It's like, I'm so worried.
I thought he was gonna die.
And now he's like, how are you worse than the last time I saw you?
Oh no!
No, Tanjiro's definitely doing better this time. He's not straight out unconscious at the end of the
That's true.
So
That's true. So far.
He should be, though.
So far.
They keep waking him up. I'm like, please let the boy just sleep.
Let my man have his noodles.
Literally just like, he needs to sleep and he needs to eat. Like, please. Instead, he's like, oh, he's asleep. No, they're talking to him. Oh, he's asleep. No, they're talking.
For good reason, though, this time, because as we come to the conclusion of this episode, you know, it's time for him to head back once again to the Butterfly Mansion to recuperate, because this man ends every season in the hospital. And, you know, he has to leave the Swordsmith village the way that he came. He needs to be blindfolded, his nose needs to be plugged because of his keen sense of smell, like ears covered, like the whole shebang. The town is, like, decimated, but they saved the city. The residents are all okay, so he gets, like, a personal thank you from the chief of the village, and they did salvage, like, one really extra beautiful wagon to carry him in, and he's on his way. But he doesn't make it very far out of the gate before the member of the Demon Slayer Corps assisting him actually stops the wagon, and he's like, what's going on? Is everything okay? And she's like, I think you need to see this. And takes off all of his coverings so that he can see the entire village cheering and rooting for him.
Listen, this again was not in the manga, and this whole this whole moment in the Swordsmith village is not in the manga. Like, this wagon was not in the manga. Like, we don't know how we got out of the village, but now we do. Buy a wagon. Okay. All the character interactions here are really cute. Haganazuka is, like, still angry, but clearly is, like, happy that Tanjiro survived. And, you know, it's like, there's character development happening there with Haganazuka. And Kotetsu's making fun of him. It's just, like, silly and fun after such a long, like, emotional roller coaster of an episode with new things happening and, you know, of course, the emotions. The way they did this brought a tear to my eye because, of course, I love Tanjiro. So when I see the whole village surprising him with, like, celebrating him, you know, that's what that boy needed after that day of just everything he went through. And, of course, I think he probably feels a little maybe not worthy of it because he was going to choose to protect Nezuko over the villagers. But at the end of the day, he did protect the villagers, and they're so incredibly grateful for him that they're choosing to show it in this way. And what a way to close out the season. It was so precious and just exactly what he deserves. He deserves to be celebrated by everyone involved, and I loved it so much.
It was so good. It reminds me of a couple scenes in Naruto. I haven't said it this episode yet, so I needed to say it at least once. And Emily knows what I'm talking about, so it's really nice to see. Hannah's confused. She'll get there later. But nonetheless, right, like, he really did deserve all of that. And I do love to see how Haganazuka made the comment, like, what, you don't want me to, you know, repair your sword even though it's a little bit damaged? And he was like, no, thank you for doing so. Like, it's so cute to see that Haganazuka does really care about Tanjiro, and the fact that, like, everyone was, like, still there for him, even though, like, things were really tough in the city. They all, like, literally stopped what they were doing to say, like, Tanjiro, thank you, because everyone put their hopes on him, right? That was that flash scene that we saw of every Hashira, and then this is what he gets out of it because everyone trusted him and he came through, luckily for everyone, and Nezuko included.
Absolutely. What a good episode. One of the best, if not the best by certain standards, but we are definitely well over time. There's so much more we could probably keep going on about, and I'm sure that we will come back and revisit this at some point in the near future. But for the time being, are there any final thoughts before we transition to our favorite moments?
One last thing. If you haven't seen it already, I know this is the sad ending of the Swordsmith Village, but Ufotable has given us the key visuals, or some of the visuals and posters for the next arc, which is labeled the Hashira Training Arc. So that trailer is already out. Don't you worry. We're going to be on it as soon as it comes out. We'll provide updates. But let's get to our favorite moments.
I'm sure that there's one that we can probably all agree on as a general favorite of the group. Obviously, the moment with Tanjiro and Nezuko is so incredibly special. And we've shared a lot. So I actually want to assume that that's probably the baseline. and let's maybe talk about, like, our other favorite moments as well. I'll go first.
I know his favorite.
I know his favorite too.
Go first, yeah.
You know what, Bryan? You go first.
You go first, Bryan.
If you're listening, you also already know my favorite moment. If you've listened long enough, you know who it's going to be. It's going to be the moment with Zenitsu. Like I said, he was able to change Tanjiro a little bit. He gave him a little piece that he needed to succeed, and I think that's what's important, right? Like, Tanjiro was able to give him the confidence to start maybe doing some missions alone, and now he gave him the key on how to defeat Tengu. The animation was gorgeous. Literally everything. Oh my God. That's all I'll say, because we need to cut. Yeah, honestly, I really hope that we get to see more of Zenitsu's Thunderclap and Flash Breathing coming forward, because I know we are going to. But seeing Tanjiro use it to a certain extent, and like I said, going back to Season 2 when he blended water in the Hinokami Kagura, and now he's blending Thunder Breathing in the Hinokami Kagura, it's just really amazing work on Tanjiro's part, so thanks, Tanjiro.
Agreed.
I'm going to say it. Is Tanjiro the Avatar?
Stop it.
Go next. I'm still thinking.
It is hard to pick. There are so many moments that could make for a good favorite moment. I think I'm gonna have to come back to my boy one last time, because we're probably not gonna get to see him for a little while. But I just love Haganazuka. He's so funny in this, and, like, just such a breath of fresh air that we really need in an otherwise very heavy episode. In particular, though, I really liked the interaction between him and Katetsu at the end. Like, at the very, very end, he's outside the wagon. He's like, "Aw, Haganazuka, are you embarrassed?" And the next thing you know, he's, like, swinging him around, like, Matilda style.
Oh, no!
And it's like, big words for a little guy that's going to get swung around by a very, very big boy right now. And it's just, like, it's just so funny, and I just love them. I really like Katetsu, too, and, like, his development over these last 11 episodes has just been really nice to watch. So, other than the obvious, I think that was one of the moments that got, like, a good belly laugh out of me.
Fun side characters getting development. It's a lot of fun. I mean, obviously, that whole sequence of Tanjiro and Nezuko, just that whole thing, amazing. The voice acting, amazing. Just blew my mind. But since I need to go something other than that, I'm gonna actually say the very opening sequence, because I didn't think about this or remember this until now, but when Tanjiro is kind of remembering everything that he's seen and questioning why demons are so self-serving and why they're so selfish and they're always running away, he is flashing back to multiple moments, including when he's kneeling in front of Rengoku. And it's just one more little, reminder of how much that moment really changed him as a character, as a person, and I think that it's just really powerful, and it's very creative the way to open the episode like that for such an intense episode that was to come. It really set the tone, and I think they did a beautiful job at it.
And everything changed when Akaza attacked.
More on him later. Yes, but just a truly incredible episode overall. I'm excited to rewatch this one.
Yeah, me too.
Many, many times, because it's definitely one of the strongest. On that note, it's about time to wrap it up, but not before Hana has one more Taisho-era Japanese secret for us.
And now it's time for a Taisho-era secret. I still haven't figured out how to say it. If you listen to them say it in Japanese, it is a mouthful. Holy frick. I don't know how they can say it so fast. But anyway. So, as many of you might know, I have been learning Japanese. I did a formal class this semester, and now I'm trying to learn it on my own. But yokata is actually something that I directly learned during the class. And it does not directly translate into thank goodness like we get it in the subtitles. The word for good is e. And when e is conjugated to be past tense, for some reason they changed it to yo. Don't ask me why Japanese does this. They just do that a lot. And kata is actually past tense for any type of adjective. So what it directly translates to is that was good. But I think just regular people in Japan, and I might be totally wrong, this is me speculating, but since my education is very formal and very, I use all the polite forms with des and mas, I think that that's just something that the locals have just turned into kind of what they say when we would usually say, oh, thank goodness, or thank God, or oh my gosh, I'm so happy. They say yokata. So that's what it directly translates to, and we heard it about 5 million times in this episode.
And on that note, we have come to the conclusion of the Swordsmith Village arc, so please let us know what you'd like to see. We have a couple things in mind. Demon Slayer's not completely going away just yet. We have some more content we can share with you, but again, we're interested in branching out, so please drop us a comment. Let us know what you might be interested in seeing from us in the interim as we wait for the now confirmed Hashira training arc, and just let us know how we can help you follow along with some similar stories that inspire you the way that Demon Slayer might. We are obviously available on Spotify if you were listening to us, Apple Music, most podcast outlets. We are on YouTube, we're on Twitter, Instagram, at Hashira Half Hour. So please give us a follow, drop a like, drop a comment. We're interested in hearing from you, and we will see you again very, very soon. Thank you so much for coming along with us on this journey. Until next time, umai.
Umai.
Umai!